I'm going to say something that may shock you. You can heal depression, even if it's been there for years or you've tried a ton of things but it keeps coming back. You see, I was in the exact same situation. For most of my life, I struggled with depression. Year after year, I tried all kinds of things. I just could not get it to go away. So these are 5 of the steps that I took to heal the root cause of depression and dramatically transform my life on all levels: physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I'm going to assume that you already know about the benefits of exercise, omega-3s, eating well, and reducing your stress level. After all, this video is called Little Known Ways to Heal Your Depression, so we're going to get into some new ideas for you. Maybe these things that you've tried have helped a bit, maybe they haven't. The problem is, most of the suggestions out there are not addressing the root cause of depression, which is what we are going to get into in this video. I'm going to share 5 action steps that are extremely powerful to heal the actual root cause of your depression. This is going to go deeper than the typical advice out there, so only watch this if you're ready to shake things up and make some real changes. These action steps require some commitment on your part, which is a good thing because it's the only thing that actually works. If you're looking for a magic pill or some external source to cure your depression, you'll likely find that your symptoms persist year after year. All right, let's jump in. Step number 1, stop defining yourself as depressed. You are not your depression. Let me repeat that again. You are not your depression. Your essential nature, which is who you really are, has nothing to do with depression. The people that truly heal from depression are the ones who disentangle their core identity from the depression. They make a choice to find out who they really are. Think of depression as an invitation to go deeper into the truth of who you are. When you clear out all the beliefs, conditioning, and other crap that has been pumped into you from a young age, you see that who you really are is a wide open field of possibility. Depression is not set in stone, no matter how long it has been there. Think of depression as a computer program that has been installed into your brain. With commitment and practice, that program can be deleted. Now here's the thing, if you adamantly believe I'm a depressed person and that's just the way it is, you can see how there is no hope for change because anything you do to heal the depression becomes a way to reinforce it. The only way a new strategy or practice can work is if you stop defining yourself as depressed. You have to be at least a little bit open to the possibilities for healing and to establish a new identity for yourself. Now, this doesn't mean that you won't feel the same sensations and thoughts right away, but by defining yourself in a new way, it creates space around the depression. You no longer allow yourself to get suffocated by it because you know that it is not part of your core identity. It does not need to define you, even if it's been there for many, many years. So let's make this practical. You can practice this on a daily basis by doing some simple meditation techniques. I encourage you to sit in a silent space for 10 minutes a day and ask yourself a couple of very powerful questions. The first question is, who am I? So with your eyes closed and your awareness turned inward, sincerely and deeply ask yourself this question without being too attached to the thoughts that come that pretend to be answers to this question. Just sit with a kind of openness of dwelling in the mystery of this question. Who am I? Another powerful question is, where is the depression? When you sit in silence and observe yourself, what you see is that the label depression is really a combination of thoughts, sensations, and feelings arising and passing away inside of you. These phenomena arise and pass away constantly. It can be quite liberating to observe depression without being it, to observe what we would call the label of depression without identifying with it. This is what you are practicing, creating space around the label depression and seeing it for what it actually is. A bundle of thoughts, feelings, and sensations that appear to be you, but really are just waves of energy arising and passing away. The real you is what is observing the depression. You can call this pure awareness or your essential nature, whatever you want. When you stop identifying with depression as who you are, its power over you starts to lessen naturally over time. You don't have to force it or figure it out or fight with yourself. You start to experience way more openness and space in your sense of self. And that's really the entry point into truly healing depression, because once again, everything else that you do to try to heal depression, if it's a strategy or action step, if you're clinging to this identity of I'm a depressed person, everything that you do, whether it's eating well or meditation or even taking medications, will only reinforce the identity of being depressed. So you have to go into that and pry it open and be willing to shake things up and see the possibility of being somebody new, of establishing a new identity. So let's drill down deeper and get into some practical action steps you can take on how to do that. Step number 2 is to use daily pattern interrupts. That's a fancy way of saying whatever you did when you were depressed, start practicing the opposite actions. This helps to anchor in a new self-definition, where you prove to yourself that you can act in a way that has nothing to do with depression. So just look at the way that you spend your normal life. How do you carry yourself in space? What is your posture doing? Do you spend a lot of time watching TV or eating like foods that you shouldn't be eating, or maybe partaking in substances that medicate the depression? And what you're going to do is play a fun game, and hopefully it feels exciting and fun to you. Well, you're going to do the opposite of these things, because you're going to prove to yourself that you can take steps that reflect the opposite of being a depressed human being. Let me give you a couple examples. Number 1, do 60 seconds of deep, slow breathing 3 to 5 times a day. Just inhale as deeply and slowly as you can, and exhale as deeply and slowly as you can, and do it for a minute, 2 minutes. 3 to 5 times a day. Now, most people with depression suffer from shallow breathing. That's just part of their habitual pattern around being a depressed person. They are trapped in their thoughts and often do not feel connected with their body. Doing 60 seconds of deep breathing is something that a depressed person would normally not do. And this is exactly why you do it. You are taking a new action step that reflects your commitment to shift into a new identity. Another example is going for a 10-minute walk. If your lifestyle is sedentary and you tend to lay on the couch a lot, or just slump over and feel like you just can't move and like you don't want to move your body at all, this is one of the most powerful things you can do, is just go on a simple walk. Get moving. Do anything that involves moving your body, because it's the exact opposite of what you would normally do. Example number 3, imagine the feeling of pure happiness. So this is a form of meditation where you activate your imagination to induce the exact opposite feeling of depression. Even if it doesn't feel real at first, you simply imagine, what would pure happiness feel like? And then you rest in that feeling for a few minutes, even putting a slight smile on your face. Exercises as simple and as direct as this can be extremely profound for healing depression, because you are rewiring your nervous system and your neural patterning to prove to yourself that you can experience states of mind and different actions that are, once again, the exact opposite of what a depressed person would normally do. All right, action step number 3, take cold showers. Now, I know this may sound like the last thing you want to do when you struggle with depression, but hear me out. Many people who feel stuck in chronic depression become addicted to comfort and immediate gratification. This addiction keeps the depression firmly intact. We end up living in this small bubble of what I call pseudo-comfort that feels impossible to poke through. The irony is that if you can consciously induce suffering, not in a masochistic way that is intended to harm you, but in a mindful way where you shock yourself out of typical comforts, you will not unconsciously suffer as much. You can see how this is another example of a strong pattern interrupt, where you introduce new inputs to your body and mind in a way that causes disruption, even shock. Now, when you take cold showers, you'll likely notice that you have more energy, mental clarity, confidence, and alertness. These qualities arise as a natural byproduct of willingly challenging our habitual patterning, even if it feels uncomfortable. Now, in fact, at some point, you start to welcome discomfort because you realize that it's an invitation into a stronger, more resilient, more badass version of yourself. And if I share my personal experience with you of doing this, yes, taking cold showers can be very uncomfortable, but there's a part of me that absolutely savors that discomfort because I know that it's a gateway into a new version of myself. Because the depressed version of me would never do that. I would never take a cold shower. And that's why you're doing it, along with all these other physical health benefits that cold showers give you. So what you want to do is start with 30 seconds at the end of a normal shower. Just turn the water all the way to cold and hang out there for 30 seconds. And then over time, you can build up to 3 to 5 minute showers or even longer, just on a completely cold setting in your shower. So you remember, you are willingly doing things a depressed person would not do. That's why you would want to get into something like cold showers. Let's keep going. Number 4, narrow your eating window. One of the most powerful practices for your overall healing is intermittent fasting. This is where you narrow your eating window to just a few hours a day. When you go for longer periods of time without food, your insulin levels stay low and human growth hormone increases. Many people say that human growth hormone is responsible for elevated mood, increased confidence, mental clarity, and various anti-aging benefits. Now, the truth is, most people with depression use food to self-medicate. They eat when they are bored, sad, or unfulfilled. And when we regularly use food to medicate depression, we will spike insulin and suppress the activation of human growth hormone, which creates ongoing fatigue, bloating, and weight gain. Of course, this makes us feel unattractive and unconfident, which completely reinforces depression, right? So I recommend a 16-8 eating cycle where you fast for 16 hours a day, then eat for an 8-hour window. Do this for at least 1 month and assess how you feel. During your fasting cycle, you can drink water, black tea, or coffee, but that's it, no calories. So go ahead and look at your schedule right now and determine what is the easiest eating window for your lifestyle. If it's 12 to 8 p.m., you would not eat anything until 12, and your last intake of food would be at 8 p.m. Now, when you break your fast, eat something that is protein-rich and satisfying. Do your best to reduce refined sugars and carbohydrates during your eating window. The more you can switch to a diet of whole foods consisting mostly of meat and vegetables, the more that food will heal you instead of hurt you. So what I've found is that by narrowing my eating window, it has naturally transformed my relationship with food. I don't have to use so much willpower or force to try to give up sugar or other foods that I really like. By fasting 16 hours a day, my body is able to rest and repair itself, and I spend way less energy on food preparation, on digestion, and this gives me a lot more mental clarity and overall vitality. And I must say, there's something about mastering your relationship with food that just makes you feel like a more badass, confident, capable human being. It's an amazing input into healing your life, and it's something that I did not expect. It was truly shocking to me how much of a game changer this truly was. So the intermittent fasting is the easiest, most direct way to increase human growth hormone, which in and of itself can be incredibly healing for depression. Experiment with this and see what you discover. Number 5, make your life a game of service. The blessing of human life is that we can always use the ways that we are suffering to serve others. When we serve others, it naturally makes us fulfilled. Depression is often a form of self-absorption where we cannot see outside of ourselves. We get stuck in a prison of our own mind. We try to analyze, fix, and change our situation while being stuck in that prison, not knowing that the real key is to expand our awareness to others with a desire to help. So look for opportunities to serve. Every time you do this, it's a strong pattern interrupt that proves you have the ability to be someone other than a depressed person. Now, I would say, use these other pattern interrupts first. Serve yourself in a new way first. Prove to yourself that you can start taking actions that are the exact opposite of what a depressed person would normally do. Once you get in a rhythm with that, keep expanding that. Go into a coffee shop and pay for the coffee of the person in line behind you. Clean up litter on your street. Show up for someone else who is struggling with depression or has other mental or emotional health challenges. Because if you've had depression, most likely you have a tremendous amount of insight to offer others who are also going through this, and that can be profoundly healing for you as well. So the way I see it is your life is like a game. Human life is a game. Your life is not nearly as set in stone as you think. The goal of the human game is to eradicate all beliefs and habits that convince us we are stuck, limited, or need to struggle. And if you look at depression, obviously it's one of the most compelling forms of limitation possible. We feel locked into a prison of our own mind. Now, who you really are on the deepest spiritual level is an infinite field of possibility. Your limits are designed to appear very real and convincing, as that's what makes the human game challenging and worth playing. Depression, as I mentioned, can appear very solid. The more you actually turn your awareness inward, however, you see that it's a highly compelling illusion. Who you really are has a tremendous amount of power. Start taking small action steps daily where you prove to yourself that you can act in the opposite way of a depressed person. Make that your number one mission in life. This may feel awkward at first, but the more you do it, you'll find it to be exhilarating and deeply rewarding. Alright, if you like these unconventional strategies and this has been helpful for you, go ahead and click the subscribe button now, and I'll give you more unconventional, very powerful steps you can take to heal your life.